All right, Alexander, we have got to talk about Boris Johnson. We talked about how he is unraveling in a couple of videos that we did last week. And he really is unraveling. He really is unraveling. He's, I think he's moving towards Plan B's in full effect, from what I understand. Boosters are in full effect. He's threatening Russia. He's we talked about the disputes he had with Serbia as well, and things are just not going well. And in the UK, I actually read a poll which said after the Christmas party scandal, we had another one that broke out as well. So like two Christmas party scandals that took place, that 2 in 3 British citizens would like to see Boris go. I don't know if that's true, but this is what I read. 2 in 3. That's terrible. The problem that I have with all of this is, if Boris goes, who do we have? I mean, who is there to lead the country?
Indeed, absolutely. Now, it's a sort of tragic comedy because, of course, Boris Johnson got Brexit done in a kind of manner. I mean, he got an actual withdrawal bill through the House of Commons. He won a huge victory in the election. He seemed for so long, or at least not for so long, he seemed for a time the dominant political figure in Britain. And it's astonishing to see how it's unravelled. And over the last few weeks, over the last few months, about the last month actually, all of these concerns and problems with Boris Johnson, they've reached critical mass. And it's not so much policy, I think, as style. The sense that this is, as you absolutely rightly say, a person who just doesn't seem to be in any kind of control, who runs things in a most volatile and unstable way. So, firstly, we have Plan B. Now, ramming Plan B through was deeply unpopular with the Conservative Party. 100 MPs, 100 Conservative MPs rebelled and voted against him on Plan B. He was only able to get it through because the opposition Labour Party supported him. That's a very, very bad call for a British Prime Minister when he has to rely on the support of the opposition to get a signature policy through the House of Commons. Now, partly it's because there is real anger within the Conservative Party, real anger within Britain over Plan B. I mean, bear in mind, at the start of this year, we were told that this problem, the pandemic problem, was on the brink of being solved. We had the rollout, everything seemed to be going well. Now we're told with this new variant that it's not the case at all, and people are very angry, very upset, and inevitably there was going to be opposition. But one of the reasons, I think, why that rebellion was so big is because it was an opportunity by many people in the party to come together and to vote against Boris Johnson because they no longer want him as their leader. And what was striking amongst those 100 Conservative MPs that rebelled is that there are people from every wing of the Conservative Party involved. So that there are more Liberals, more Conservative Tories, there are Remainers, there are Leavers. All of these people are coming together and they're saying, Boris, this is enough. And the perception is, firstly, a tolerance of corruption, which, I mean, to be very clear about it, there's a lot of corruption in Britain anyway. Corruption is a major problem in Britain at any point in time now. And I'm not going to say that this government is more corrupt than others. But the point about Boris is that he seems to tolerate it. He seems to be very relaxed about other people being corrupt. He seems to side with that former cabinet minister, Owen Paterson, who'd been criticised for the way in which he was running second jobs and receiving money and doubling his income effectively by doing favours for other people. And I mean, that was a bad call. Then there was the way in which there was the whole Downing Street operation works. And then on top of all of that, there was this ghastly business of the parties, which of course has cut through. It gives an impression of a prime minister who's basically more interested in enjoying himself and enjoying things with his friends than really caring about the country, and who really is indifferent to the concerns and feelings and problems of ordinary people. So it's all come together now, and there's an important parliamentary by-election taking place in Shropshire. We'll probably have the result fairly soon, perhaps after this programme appears. But even if he survives that, even if the Conservatives hold that, my own feeling is that his position is now becoming so threatened as to be almost irretrievable. So I would not be surprised. In fact, I rather expect that within the next few weeks, we will see the first moves to engineer him, to get him out of power, to arrange for him to go. I believe that opinion poll, by the way. I think especially the business of the parties has indeed cut through. Now, who will take over? Now, in previous programmes...
Give us some names. Give us some names.
Okay, well, there's three always to talk about. And in previous programmes, we've talked about the power struggle between Sunak and Kwarteng, that these are the two big intellectual political figures in the cabinet. It looked at the start of this year as if Sunak was preparing to make his bid for power. He seemed to be manoeuvring against Johnson, and then Kwarteng sort of rose up as business secretary and appeared to some extent, balance out Sunak. I think Kwarteng, if there is a crisis, if Boris steps down, I think Kwarteng is not yet in a position to make a move. Now, logically, that ought to open the way for Sunak. But the battle with Kwarteng has weakened Sunak. And now there's talk that there's a third person who might take over. And this is our new Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss. Now, I'm going to say straight away, I think this is incredibly bad news. I think Liz Truss is just about the worst person you could appoint. Everything about her suggests to me somebody who is both extremely inexperienced. She's only been in politics. She's never had real work apart from the fact that she's been in politics. She comes across as incredibly rigid. She's a neocon on steroids. She's gone to Estonia, where she sort of paraded around in a tank pointing at Russia, which, I mean, even opinion in Britain didn't like that. And beyond that, over and above and beyond that, I think there's a fairly widespread feeling that she's not too bright, and at the same time that she appears to be very principled and very doctrinaire, except when it suits her. So she voted Remain in the Brexit referendum. And then, of course, after the referendum was over and done with, and when it became clear that Leave was going to win, and that the way to win support in the Conservative Party was to shift to Leave, she became an extreme Brexiter, an extreme leaver. So I think at some level that has created a degree of distrust for her. But because Sunak has been weakened, and because Kwarteng, who, to be straightforward, I think both Sunak and Kwarteng are intellectually far more formidable figures than Liz Truss, because neither of those two people looks ready at the moment. Sunak because he's been weakened, Kwarteng because he's still building up support. There's this wave of support within the Conservative backbenches for Liz Truss, and this very strong neocon position that she's taking seems to have won her a lot of support from, if you like, the ex-army officers on the Conservative backbenches who are an important grouping within the Conservative Party and who overwhelmingly have very strong neocon sentiments. So I think Liz Truss now looks like a real possibility. I think it would be a huge mistake. I don't think the country would like her at all. I think most of the country would see her as another person trying to be a Thatcher, because many of the gestures that she's made seem to point to Thatcher. But she's got some of Thatcher's tunes, but she doesn't have Thatcher's voice. She doesn't have anything remotely like Thatcher's personality or political skills.
Yeah, it seems like the conservative media really likes her.
Yeah.
I mean, the Telegraph is conservative, correct?
Yeah, absolutely,
The
yes.
Daily Telegraph.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because their article on her is the title is "Everything is Falling into Place for Liz Truss." The Guardian also doesn't seem too upset with her either. I mean, it seems like she has the media. I don't want to say they're fully on board with her, but it does seem like they're warming up to the idea of supporting her.
Absolutely.
That's the way I'm reading it.
Bear in mind that the media in Britain, the mainstream media, is neocon dominated. So a neocon prime minister would delight them. I mean, they would have the first, pure neocon prime minister since Tony Blair. And from their point of view, if they get Liz Truss, I mean, it's you could almost say that for the neocons, it's a wet dream. So
what makes her
not
neocon?
surprising. Well, she's a person who has consistently supported neocon wars, neocon interventions, all those sort of things, and of course, she is an outspoken opponent of Russia. Now, I would say, of course, that this is a person who went from being an arch Remainer to being an arch Brexiter within a very short time. I mean, that might change. It might be that this is a pose in order to gain support. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing, but if it's not, we have a neocon. If it is, well, we have somebody who's completely unprincipled. Either way, it's a bad call.
All right, here's a tweet from Keir Starmer yesterday. Boris Johnson is too weak to lead. The public is safer thanks to Labour putting people's health before party politics. The Prime Minister needs to take a long, hard look at himself and ask whether he has the authority to take this country through the pandemic. Is there any chance in the near future that Labour and Keir Starmer, who I can't for the life of me find one person that actually likes this guy, left, right, or center, but is there any possibility that they manage to get into power somehow, some way?
It's not. It's for the first time. I would say it's not inconceivable. Not because anybody likes Keir Starmer, apart from he's got a fan club within the Labour Party, or at least a pretended fan club. I mean, this is the Blairite faction that now runs the Labour Party. Nobody likes them. I mean, they're not popular in the country at all, and Starmer's poll ratings are not good, and Labour's poll ratings up to now have not been very good, but given the car crash that is the Johnson government, it's just possible that everything unravels and falls apart and there's an election. Starmer might even win. I mean, it's not inconceivable now. I think a more likely thing, I mean, if someone like Sunak or indeed Kwarteng were to become a new Conservative Prime Minister and were to consolidate himself as Prime Minister, then I suspect what you'd see is that the Labour support would fall again, and Starmer would be in even bigger problems than he was when Johnson was in his prime. If it's Liz Truss, it's just possible that Liz Truss will antagonise so many people in the country that, again, there might be a rally behind Starmer. We'll just have to see. If Starmer wins, it will be because of default. It will be because of exasperation with the Conservatives. It will not be because of much positive support for him. There isn't much in the country. And I still think, on balance, even in an election where the Conservatives were in disarray. There is so much anger against Starmer, the arch remainer in the Leave voting, pro-Brexit, working class seats in the north of England and in the Midlands that went over to the Conservatives in 2019. I still think that he would struggle to win there.
What a disappointment Boris was. Final question. With all of this that's going on, there is the possibility that in one shape or one manner, it may not be a direct entrance back into, but in one way or another, the UK is in trouble of sliding back into the European Union. I don't mean as a member, but in some sort of alliance, in some sort of subservient role, perhaps, in some sort of economic role. I don't know, but I think that's coming, and that's a real possibility.
It's a very real possibility.
That would explain why there's a lot of people. That would explain why a lot of people are talking about the fact that Nigel Farage is looking to get back into politics. My hunch is that Nigel Farage sees all of this that's happening, and he is saying, you know what, I better enter the arena again because we're backsliding. We
are. I mean, it's a fact. Whenever he leaves politics, you see backsliding immediately start. And we've seen it. This is exactly what's happening. Bear in mind, we're talking about the three people who might replace Boris. One, Sunak, well, he voted leave, or so he tells us, in the 2016 referendum, and he's identified with leave. But he is, to all intents and purposes, the representative of big international globalist capital within the Conservative Party. I mean, that's his perspective. He's not going to want a further quarrel with the EU. He's definitely going to want to patch things up with the EU, if only because he wants his invitation to Davos, which is where he's most at home and where he would be very welcome. Kwarteng is perhaps a rather harder, edgier figure, but I still think, on balance, that he doesn't have these. I mean, he's not thought of as one of, the really solid, hardline Brexiteers that, exist within the Conservative Party. Bear in mind that he was, for a time, Theresa May's Brexit secretary. So, I mean, that already tells you something about Kwarteng. And, of course, Liz Truss voted Remain in the 2016 referendum. So those are the three people who are looking like they would replace Boris. None of them, as you rightly say, would want to reverse Brexit entirely. They wouldn't want to take Britain formally back into the EU. But against that, one has to say that they're not, frankly, committed to the project. And it's difficult to see anybody at the moment who is committed to the project who could conceivably be Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party. Always this backsliding takes place when Nigel Farage leaves the scene. I'm just going to add one further thing. If you read the people who are angriest with Boris at the moment, it is precisely the Brexiters. They feel deeply let down by him. They feel that they supported him, that they accepted him as their leader when he became Prime Minister, that they overwhelmingly voted for him in the 2019 election, and they feel that he has completely messed up ever since, that he's failed to run an effective government, and he's thrown away an opportunity which may never come again.
He has. He is a disappointment.
Yeah. Well, to be straightforward about Boris, and I said this before, I mean, he's a clever man. I mean, he is fundamentally a clever man. He's a clever man who's played the clown all his life. For a long time, it was a pose. Unfortunately, if you play the clown too much, you end up becoming one. And that's what's happened to Boris. Once upon a time, you could see this from his articles, the kind of articles he used to write, and his editorship of the Spectator. He was at one point a clever man, but he has lost the capacity to be serious about anything. He doesn't know how to manage. He's only interested all the time in basically putting on a show. He's all theatre and no hard line, no hard grind or substance. Prime ministers in Britain who make a difference. Winston Churchill, by the way, very hard worker, very good manager. There's an aspect of Churchill's personality that people don't know about. Clement Attlee, his successor, very hard-working man, put in 15 hours a day, worked through weekends. Margaret Thatcher, famously a very hard-working prime minister. She used to work late into the hours, going through all the various documents, having a very clear idea of what she wanted and charting a very strong direction. If you're going to make real change in Britain as prime minister, you need to work hard. You need the vision. You don't have the vision, like, say, Gordon Brown was a hard-working prime minister, but he didn't have that sense of vision, that sense of direction. You don't have that, then you're not going to succeed. You get lost in the maze of the detail. But you can't just have vision. You can't just have ideas. You've got to be there working through the night, getting all the pieces together, getting all the things done. If you can do that, the British system can be made to work for you. Boris was never interested in any of that. He was more interested in making a good appearance, and I'm afraid it's now caught up with him.
All the people that you named, they had guts and they believed in British sovereignty. Boris doesn't have guts and he doesn't believe in British sovereignty because at the end of the day, he is, deep down, he did Brexit, but deep down, he is a globalist. All he had to do was say, no plan B, boosters if you want, if you don't, your choice. And we are going to go out into the world now that we are free from the EU, and we're going to start making deals with everybody and anybody. And we're going to get the economy roaring back. That's all he had to do.
Absolutely.
It's not easy, but that's all he had to do. Plan B, globalists, Bill G, shove it up your ass. We're not going to do it. Boosters, your choice. It's up to you. And we're going to go and we're going to get the economy working again because we can make our own decisions now. We're not dependent on the EU telling us what to do. That's all he had to do.
Which is, of course, the whole point about Brexit in the first place. The whole point about Brexit was that it was supposed to be a return to traditional British policy, which was that Britain is open for business. It's open for business with all the world. And that's what Britain was supposed to be about. That's what made Britain such a powerful and successful and wealthy country. And, of course, you're absolutely right. Boris isn't someone who grasps that and who really feels it. And you're absolutely right. The three people that I mentioned before, including Clement Attlee, of course, who was a Labour Prime Minister, but he was absolutely a sovereigntist to his core. Couldn't conceive of anything else. And of course Thatcher was, and so was Churchill. Churchill was, of course, that to a huge degree. Boris isn't, and as I said, he doesn't understand that. He doesn't have the grasp of it, and he doesn't have the self-discipline and the sense of how to do it. And unfortunately, one has to say that none of the people who look likely to succeed him, any of them, not Liz Truss, not Sunak, not Kwarteng, not Starmer, look remotely up to the job, the task that is required at this present time.
Yeah. Farage better get back in the game quick.
Absolutely.
That's all I know. Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. All right. All right. We'll leave it there. The Duran.locals.com, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, and Super U is where you will find our videos. And go to the Duran shop.
Excellent.
10% off when you use the code Good Day. And do you have a good day mug?
Of course I do.
Today, or
of course
no?
I do. I
You
always have my good day mug. You wouldn't. I'm never work now without it. I mean, I have it all the time. By the way.
All right, 10% off all merchandise, including that mug, when you use the code Good Day. Duranshop.com. Take care, everybody.